Thomas hands the catalyst dagger to Erica. The Academy's greatest secret begins here. Erica observes that the blade is protected by a heavy anti-theft spell. A glowing system window confirms Sehun's magical bond with her is active. The other students struggle to shape metal cubes using their raw mana. The heir and his blonde rival Inchil step up for the trial. They finish the first task instantly, leaving the entire class stunned. Professor Robert reveals a nightmare of interlocking metal spirals for the next test. Desperate to prove himself, Inchil rushes to replicate the complex design. His ego blinds him to the sculpture's most intricate hidden details. He completely misses the microscopic chains holding the core together. The metal structure shatters as Inchil makes a fatal molding error. Sehun watches the failure, having already cracked the sculpture's secret. Professor Robert shifts his focus towards Sehun with a sharp, testing look. Robert nods, impressed by Sehun's flawless execution of the intricate design. The young smith's precision is unlike anything the instructor has seen in years. It's a level of mastery that shouldn't belong to a student. Long ago, this specific maneuver served as the signature of St. Lee Kent's. It was a style that defined an era of legendary craftsmanship. Seeing it now feels like witnessing a ghost from the past. Sehun has finally unlocked the legendary power known as the Truth of Iron. This hidden art allows him to communicate with the soul of the metal. It's the key to surpassing every other smith in the academy. The ancient technique resonates with his very core. He can feel the hammer's weight differently now. Robert pulls out a rare crimson fire jade as a reward for his success. The gem pulses with a rhythmic, warm light that fills the room. It's an artifact most hunters would kill to own. Robert hands it over. Use this to strengthen your flames, with a heavy nod. The professor notes that the jade will permanently boost Sehun's unique crimson fire. This isn't just a temporary buff, it's a fundamental evolution of his power. His flames will burn hotter and purer than ever before. Sehun searches his memories, but the name Kim In-cheol never appeared before his regression. This man is a total wildcard in his new timeline. He wonders if his presence is causing the world to change. He shakes In-cheol's hand, feeling a strange shift in the world around him. That evening, Sehun prepares to absorb the raw essence of the fire jade. He sits cross-legged, the gem glowing brightly between his palms. The air begins to shimmer from the rising temperature. He drains his mana reserves to create a vacuum for the incoming energy. It's a dangerous gamble that leaves him completely vulnerable. If his timing is off, the jade's power will tear him apart. Sweat beads on his forehead as the void within him grows. Every second of emptiness feels like an eternity. Intense heat surges through his veins like a scorching crimson flood. It feels as if his very blood is being replaced by molten lava. He grits his teeth, refusing to let out a single scream. Sehun sits in absolute stillness as the red flames begin to consume him. The real transformation is only just beginning. As the smoke clears and he emerges, the tension in the room shifts instantly. Adam warns the class that today's results will define their entire semester. Seth stares down the jagged hunk of metal resting on his anvil. He eyes the blade and admits the work is a total mess. Seth knows he can't afford to take this assignment lightly. The young smith grips the heavy hammer with a steady, focused hand. He strikes the glowing steel with rhythmic, crushing blows. White-hot sparks erupt as Seth forces the metal into a new shape. His focus narrows until the classroom noise fades into nothing. A dark, roaring sound fills Seth's mind like the echo of a world ending. In his past life, this roar always signaled a coming masterpiece. The air pours his remaining strength into one final, heavy strike. A blinding flash of white light suddenly engulfs the entire workshop. The system announces that the white light longsword is finally complete. A nearby student stares at the blade in utter disbelief. Seth smirks. His pre-regression muscle memory finally kicks in. He feels the power. Later, the heir strolls through the academy grounds with Sarah. The campus is busy. Sarah, a talented enchanter, is called a failure by others. She ignores the constant mockery. She ignores the noise, dreaming of a world without enchanting limits. Sarah leads Seth into a workshop. They meet Master Naomi. The air smells of iron. Naomi eyes their work. "Are you two finished?" she asks with a sharp tone. Sarah whispers that she despises the cranky woman. Seth just nods in agreement. Naomi examines the small dagger Seth sharpened. It catches the dim light. Her eyes widen. She feels the lethal perfection. It's unlike anything she's seen. Naomi can't believe a freshman achieved this. It shouldn't be possible. She is stunned. Sarah pulls Seth away. They leave the stunned woman behind in silence. But while they escape the immediate tension, a far more dangerous confrontation awaits just around the corner. Enoch towers over Deborah, warning that her lack of imagination is fatal. He explains that a creator's vision is their most lethal weapon. Deborah shudders as the senior's heavy purple aura crushes the air. Enoch reaches into his uniform, making the girl brace for an artifact. Instead, the man pulls out a box of chocolate biscuit sticks. He smirks and Deborah's jaw drops at the sight of snacks. Her mentor casually munches on the treats in the middle of training. She screams in frustration, calling the lazy heir a total disappointment. Judith follows closely behind, asking what the senior is currently doing. Enoch ignores her, strolling calmly toward the academy's massive main arena. Meanwhile, the Arkuf Coliseum erupts in cheers as Arya appears. Arya Myers takes center stage as the academy's top fourth-year valedictorian. As the destined Myers heir, she represents a legendary, powerful bloodline. This academy consistently produces the world's most powerful heroes. Her opponent, Lazarus, steps forward. Lazarus stands ready, his massive spear gripped tightly in his hands. He is the top-ranked third-year student in the Spear Arts Department. He lunges forward, unleashing a devastating strike infused with roaring flames. Arya remains calm even as the fire consumes the air around her body. With a single, precise movement of her rapier, she deflects the strike. She parries the blow. The duel ends instantly, leaving the crowd stunned. The stadium falls into absolute shock. The announcer declares Arya the winner. Lazarus walks away in shame while Arya ignores the cheering crowd. Thousands of students watch her triumph, her golden eyes narrow. Arya focuses on a distant silhouette walking through stands. She sees Enoch's reflection. He is the only true challenge remaining. With his gaze locked on her, the dust begins to settle over the battlefield. Yom Seong-ha stands tall among the wreckage, having survived the carnage. He locks eyes with the fighter known only as Blacksmith. The warrior was once a legendary pillar within the Abyss Legion. This man once offered his very life to slay a demon god. Now the former hero stands in the park like a fallen angel. Song-ha knows that peaceful words will never reach a mad dog. He ignites his mana, preparing for a brutal exchange of power. The air hums as the heir readies his next strike. The mad dog lunges forward, aiming to shatter the earth beneath them. Song-ha narrowly evades the blow as the ground erupts in flames. The atmosphere thickens with the heavy scent of scorched earth. Blacksmith senses that his opponent is truly the valedictorian of his school. He decides that Yam Song-ha is a threat that must die. Song-ha seizes the momentum, unleashing a technique that defies logic. He calls upon the Flame Wheel, a technique born in Gehenna. A massive inferno consumes the area, staining the sky deep crimson. Yom Song-ha emerges from the smoke, completely untouched by the flames. The heir exhales slowly, appearing totally unimpressed by the wrath. He watches as Blacksmith gasps for air through the thick soot. Suddenly, a terrified blonde student is caught between the two warriors. The boy staggers as the shockwaves of mana crush his lungs. He coughs violently, struggling to breathe against the overwhelming pressure. Blacksmith suddenly grips the boy's trembling arm with terrifying strength. "Do you know the valedictorian?" the mercenary demands, voice like thunder. He needs to know if the student recognizes the master of Borsippa. With that question lingering in the air, Sehun walks through the academy halls with a visibly trembling Jonathan. Beside him, Jonathan grips his head in a state of absolute distress. Sehun actually welcomes the growing interest in his newfound abilities. He fails to notice the dark pressure crushing his companion's spirit. Long ago, the masses worshipped Arya Myers like a holy saint. She was a beacon of hope before her sudden, unexplained disappearance. Arya returned from the darkness wielding a blade forged in Gehenna. The weapon pulses with a thick, suffocating aura of pure evil. A text from the Sword Saint instantly shatters Jonathan's fragile composure. Arya monitors her brother's every move through the glowing screen. She demands a full report on her brother's mysterious new friend. Jonathan shudders under the weight of his sister's terrifying obsession. The morning lecture begins as a strange new instructor finally arrives. Reese Dova, a short and eccentric man, rolls in on a wooden box. Reese announces he'll be teaching attribute theory for the next 2 weeks. The students stare at their bizarre new instructor in uncomfortable silence. Shadrach steps forward, ready to put his flames on full display. Scorching rings of fire swirl around Shadrach with violent, untamed intensity. This display of raw power leaves the entire class speechless. The heir watches the performance with a sharp, critical eye. Once the demonstration ends, Sehun approaches the talented fire user. Sehun mentions a legendary leader who reached the fabled 8th wheel. Shadrach freezes as Sehun exposes his hidden 7th wheel rank. The fire user clenches his fists, his composure beginning to crumble. Shadrach asks how he knows as Sehun notes his failure to detonate. Ignoring the stunned silence, he turns his focus toward the forge to begin the real work. Lee Sehun stands before the forge, blending fire with raw power. He stabilizes the dark ores using a precise 7:3 ratio. This balance is essential. To onlookers, it looks like standard substitution. However, Sehun is pushing the technique far beyond its limits. Dark mana begins to surge, testing his absolute focus. Any slip in concentration will result in total disaster. Failure means losing his title as the chosen heir. If he fails this task, expulsion is the only outcome. Sehun approaches a talented student named Yom Jin Yan. Jin Hyan is a skilled spearman with massive ambitions. The blacksmith holds out a glowing red bead for inspection. The spearman asks for help to lead the flame flower gate. The artisan remains confident. He knows the path ahead is clear. Jin Hyan grips the spear, testing the weight of Sehun's creation. He launches into a series of blinding high-speed strikes. The training's tool channels his mana, pushing his speed further. Flames erupt as the young warrior dances. The technique feels like it was devised by Sehun's future self. He watches the display, unimpressed by the flashy movements. It's just a simple tool for class, the blacksmith explains. Jin Hyan is actually the son of a legendary warrior. His ultimate ambition is conquering all 6 of the great demon realms. Lee Sehun listens before making a claim that shifts everything. This bold statement completely changes the warrior's perspective. He promises to forge a weapon capable of slaying demon gods. But before he can even begin his work, the tension in the room reaches a breaking point. Yom Song-ha stares down Gang Hyanun with a flat, dangerous look. The young master vows to slaughter demon gods and carve his path. Gang Hyanun holds the glowing red resonant black stone between his fingers. This artifact holds the power to decide the next sect leader. The instructor offers the stone, claiming he'll force leadership upon him. Disciples watch in silence as the tension in the hall peaks. "Watch your tongue," the arrogant master warns his opponent. Yom Seong-ha ignores the threat and demands a promotion match. A ring of fire erupts as Gang Hyanun accepts the challenge. He recalls a command to handle this challenger with absolute brutality. The 2 warriors clash, sending sparks and mana flying everywhere. The instructor swings his heavy blade with the intent to kill. The sheer pressure of their collision rattles the entire training hall. Gang Hyanun swings his spear with the grace of a dancing flame. He senses a strange dark attribute mana leaking from Yom Song-ha. Song-ha laughs, promising the truth will be revealed in their coming clash. During the clash, the instructor feels his flame wheel being ripped apart. Shadows of Sheol swarm the weapon, causing cracks to spiderweb across it. The dark energy takes hold, making the spear vibrate with unstable power. With a deafening shatter, the legendary weapon breaks into useless metal shards. Gang Hyanun drops to his knees, his pride destroyed along with his spear. Sehun steps onto the floor to collect the remains of the blade. A sudden, desperate strike targets Sehun as he reaches for the shards. Sehun parries the attack with effortless ease, ending the instructor's final gamble. The battle for the 7th wheel has ended in a total slaughter. But amidst the carnage, the mercenary turns his cold gaze toward the last surviving student. The student coughs violently as the mercenary crushes his arm with overwhelming force. The master of Borsippa barks, asking if he recognizes the academy's top student. Unaware of the interrogation, Lee Sehun stands before a stunned lecture hall. The young blacksmith holds a blade glowing with a newly awakened power. Sehun explains sharpness aura. Erika Ino watches as her social link stone reacts. The gem pulses, syncing Erika's mana with the master craftsman. The air swings the weapon, cutting the air with lethal precision. The blade evolves from a common high grade to a rare rank. This impossible feat stuns the crowd. Malachi clutches his bidding paddle with trembling hands. Malachi knows the value of an item crafted by the department's top talent. Erika remains composed while the auctioneer screams for a final bid. Gideon shouts, "Is anyone going back empty-handed?" as the bidding continues. The crowd senses a masterpiece. Suddenly, the heavy doors swing. A woman with crimson hair enters. Her presence weighs heavy on the room. She moves like a wolf entering a field of cowering prey. Malachi recalls his secret orders. He must secure Sehun's work at any cost. His benefactor demands the weapon regardless of price. Sehun ignores the chaos. The blacksmith plans to test his refined steel in a lethal danger zone. The upcoming first-year subjugation practice will be his chosen hunting ground. Far from the school, a more dangerous figure watches the changing board. The UD group chairman sits in his throne room. He is a titan. This one-eyed king views the academy's petty squabbles as a mere stepping stone. Back in the office, Malachi bows low before the smiling Deborah. The blonde woman dismisses his failure with a cold, hollow smile. Deborah smiles. What's done is done. Malachi vows to succeed by any means. With the stage set for their inevitable clash, Sehun prepares to prove that a blacksmith can outclass any warrior. Ma Guangsu studies the spear with a sharp, analytical gaze. The instructor spots the intricate flame wheel formulas etched deep inside. Guangsu stands frozen, stunned that a student achieved such flawless craftsmanship. Guangsu grants Sehun an attendance exemption, leaving the entire room speechless. Sehun offers a confident smirk as he accepts the high praise. A desperate student named Kane steps forward, refusing to let Sehun leave. The boy barks a challenge, demanding a duel to prove his worth. Sehun ignores him. The dismissal triggers a frantic memory of Ryu Yunha. The elite heir cannot afford to lose his standing among his peers. Kane lunges forward, activating the Myers-style formless sword technique. Glowing blue mana wraps around his hands like a spectral blade. "I am not a pushover," Kane screams while charging forward blindly. Sehun tracks the incoming strike and readies his custom spear. The atmosphere thickens as the blacksmith draws on hidden regressor power. A ghostly warrior appears behind him, mirroring his every movement. The air swings his spear, igniting a fierce vortex of crimson flames. Kane fails to track the overwhelming speed of this counterattack. He desperately dodges the searing heat while hunting for an opening. The student expects to win once the spear's effect finally fades. Sehun reads the pathetic strategy and offers a chilling smile. He triggers the true potential of the spear's internal magic circles. A massive explosion of dark energy and fire consumes the hall. The shockwave shatters Kane's resolve, leaving the opponent gasping. Sehun stops his blade inches from the terrified boy's throat. With the blade finally sheathed, the tension fades as the training session shifts to another grueling round. Jake rubs his neck and sighs, clearly frustrated with his progress. He explains that every blade he touches eventually snaps like a twig. Sehun watches the blonde warrior and tells him to stay calm. The blacksmith places a hand on Jake to analyze his mana. Sehun notices the warrior is performing a rare feat of material alteration. This isn't simple reinforcement, the metal is changing at a molecular level. Jake pulls away, demanding an explanation for the strange behavior. The heir just smiles, his eyes gleaming with a new plan. Sehun makes an offer. "Want me to forge you a real sword?" A mystical covenant forms between them as the level 1 bond appears. Suddenly, a massive shadow like a modern Goliath towers over them. Standing at the entrance, this newcomer carries a heavy veteran presence. Sehun immediately recognizes the battle-hardened man standing before him. Sehun channels the essence of a legendary master from his previous life. He moves with the fluid precision of a master spearman. The elder notes that a blacksmith shouldn't possess such lethal grace. The young blacksmith brushes it off as a cheap trick using a skill. This calculated display forces a spiritual bond to form with the master. The elder crosses his arms, silently judging the student's hidden potential. Later, the student reviews a tragic report about a girl named Louise. Louise Valent was a rising star before a calculated betrayal destroyed her. Gotz Kruger, a necromancy valedictorian, was the one who crippled her. Pierre Barmouth crafted the wand that conveniently failed during the duel. These elite students are all members of the corrupt noblesse network. He understands that this group of high-ranking students rules the academy. But before he can even process their dominance, a sudden clash forces him to defend his life. Sehun stares at the jagged remains of his blade, the blood still fresh. He enters the sterile wards of Ascus. A volatile patient waits for him inside. Ezekiel stands ready to monitor Deborah as she begins preparing for her training. Deborah gathers her remaining strength. She focuses to manifest a lethal lava bullet. Mana surges violently through her weakened body. The power is too much to handle. A sudden mana backflow strikes Deborah. She gasps, clutching at her chest for air. Ezekiel watches the readings. His expression remains cold and clinical despite the danger. He steps forward to stabilize her. Her internal circuits are on the verge of shattering. The doctor adjusts his glasses. He delivers a stern warning about her health. Her rehabilitation is now limited. He allows only 50 attempts per day. Deborah protests the restriction. Her voice trembles with pure desperation. "I'm fine," Deborah insists while struggling to remain upright. Her limbs fail to support her weight as she nearly collapses to the floor. Medical staff force Deborah back into the safety of her bed. A sedative needle pierces her skin to suppress the rampaging mana. The girl recovers in silence, knowing standard rehabilitation is a failure. Sehun watches the struggle from the doorway with a flat stare. Deborah notices him and demands to know what he's looking at. Her temper flares as she lashes out at him with insults. Her eyes burn with rage. Sehun knows she hides a secret. That secret is far more dangerous than simple mana backflow. Memories of a gas-masked warrior haunt the corners of her mind. She recalls the crushing weight of power she can't control. Deborah glares at the black box containing her last desperate hope. If the experiments fail, she must find a darker path. Driven by that grim necessity, she turns her attention toward the only one who can help her. Sehun successfully establishes a spiritual link with his target. Louise Valent is desperate. Instructor Gamaliel finishes his questioning. He dismisses the injured blacksmith. Sehun hides his true intentions. He maintains a polite, hollow smile while returning to his room. Sehun enters his hospital room to prepare for the next phase. The heir calls his contact Jake to gather intel on rivals. The massive white tower of the academy stands over the city. It looks like a monument as power shifts within the walls. Elite students plot their moves. Absalom carries himself with pride. He possesses the arrogance of a predestined and golden king. Beside him, stern Solomon watches the hierarchy with a flat stare. Louise Valent ambushes Sehun in the sterile hospital corridor. She drags him into an empty room to avoid prying eyes. Gamaliel watches from the shadows, sensing a sudden shift in power. Louise demands to know how Sehun obtained her private medical device. She stares at him with the intensity of a cornered beast. Sehun holds his ground, meeting her lethal gaze without flinching. He grips the black inhaler with a calm, unreadable expression. The blacksmith explains that her condition is far worse than she suspects. The internal conflict of her mana will eventually cause total overload. Louise understands that her dream of reaching the summit is fading. Without his help, she will never use mana again. The girl trembles as the reality of her incurable disease sinks in. Sehun watches her carefully, waiting for his new pawn to break. He waits for her resolve to finally shatter. But instead of breaking, she finds a hidden well of strength deep within her. Erika Inoue grits her teeth while blue mana surges through her veins. Sehun watches calmly, reminding her he is merely a humble blacksmith. He calls this brutal, dangerous rehabilitation a simple act of kindness. Erika narrows her eyes, asking what this modern Solomon wants in return. She weighs the cost of her recovery before offering a firm handshake. A silent pact forms between the broken patient and her strange savior. Sehun explains that mana is already flooding through her shattered body. Her real problem is an inability to refine energy at the source. He insists she must use her tongue to shape the raw power. Erika stares in disbelief as he mentions putting elephants in refrigerators. This bizarre riddle actually simplifies the complex process of mana control. Sehun points directly at her while holding a bag of cherries. The memory of a gas-masked warrior flickers through Erika's clouded mind. Erika wonders if Sehun truly grasps the crushing power she once wielded. Like a stern teacher, Sehun ignores her confusion, launching into tongue twisters. Erika shouts the phrases, her throat burning with both exhaustion and mounting rage. She complains her only progress lately is improved pronunciation. A passing doctor observes the chaotic scene, utterly bewildered. Suddenly, Erika grasps the true purpose behind these ridiculous vocal exercises. Precise incantations demand a perfect mental image to manifest their magical effects. She focuses her intent and the swirling mana begins to settle. The chaotic energy dissipates, forming a stable sphere of pure blue light. Erika gasps, touching her neck in profound shock. She successfully recreated a complex spell, having seen it only once. Sehun, the regressor, stands confident, capable of forging any destiny. With that resolve set in stone, he steps forward to claim the future he has carved out for himself. Lee Sehun recalls the elite students who turned on him like wolves. The faces of Gotz Kruger and Pierre Barmet haunt his thoughts. Sehun vows to tear the throat out of every tormentor. This isn't just survival, it is a quest for holy retribution. While the heir plans, Gang Hyan-un oversees training at the tower. The instructor coldly dismisses a scrawny recruit after a pathetic display. Back at the hospital, Lee Sehun shows Louise Valent a cryptic challenge. The message offers an escape if she fears getting hurt again. Louise stares at the screen, her eyes wide and hands trembling. Sehun looks her in the eye. Trust me on this. He insists this duel is her only path to true healing. She must face her demons to finally shatter those internal chains. Lee Sehun reaches out and touches the bandages on her neck. A system window flickers to life before his focused gaze. He extracts a soul-bound essence from the girl. Their bond reaches its first level as the magic swirls. A rare dying waterstone manifests in the air. This artifact specializes in imbuing mana into raw, unyielding ore. Elsewhere, Pierre Barmot crushes a stone in his trembling fist. His phone rings with a call from a powerful superior. You can't handle one person? The superior sneers through the phone. Pierre gets scolded for creating a mess for the network. The superior demands he clean up his own pathetic failure. If the network intervenes now, their plans remain in jeopardy while the focus shifts to a quiet moment elsewhere. Louise Valent watches Sehun's profound skill as he holds a shimmering blue gem. Lee Sehun reveals his method. Adapting materials to the user creates superior armaments. The young woman listens intently, watching Sehun's every move. Sehun then tells her, "You don't need to refine it," simplifying her task. Louise places the gem down, channeling mana from her hands directly into it. Lee Sehun perceives the ideal conditions, allowing perfect perception through the materials. He discerns complex circuits inside the gem, astounding Louise with his insight. The student smiles, holding the finished engraved gem in her hand. The engraved gem activates, radiating powerful mana and water effects. Louise whispers, Oprigin, completely mesmerized by the gem's transformation. Vibrant light erupts as mana streaks across the entire room. She watches, captivated, thinking, it's so pretty at the display. A sleek, futuristic armament takes shape, forming into a bracelet. Louise gapes at Sehun holding the band. This is my armament? She asks, shocked. The scene suddenly shifts, jarring and violent. No longer in the hospital, the student stands in a dark, empty room. A red-haired woman materializes, her smile taunting. She mocks Sehun, asking if he turned back time with a trash dagger. The glitchy scene reveals Sehun as a failed regressor, standing over fallen figures. The red-haired woman places a hand on his shoulder. "You have failed," she declares. Sehun's eyes burn with fury. He delivers a powerful punch. The painful memory shatters like glass, breaking apart before him. A dark, crystalline device shatters, green energy crackling. Back in the dark room, Lee Sehun grips his hammer. He grasps the deception. He seethes, vowing vengeance for his master against the imposters.